Because as I was saying last night, she truly was a force to be reckoned with. And for those of you, all of you here who, have known her and loved her, like our cousin Ferial was saying, she truly made an impact on every life that she touched. Alhamdulillah. As we get started with the preparations for burial, I'm going to ask Sheikh Qasim Abdullah to join us at the podium for a recitation. Thank you.
Subhanahu wa ta'ala, He grants her the highest levels of Jannah. And we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives patience and perseverance and forbearance.
Allahu Akbar. No other man's life other than your life to come from us. We can talk.
Brothers and sisters, after the funeral, we'll be coming back here to have a meal served in her memory. About 3 o'clock, so tfaddalun, you're all welcome to join us.
Because it doesn't look like anything in certificate, right? Unless it was over there. That's where it was.
Guys, take a break and do the fat pop, please.
Love you, Debbie. More than money can buy.
Al-Fatiha.
Alhamdulillah, honestly, with everybody's presence last night and this morning and this evening, it's a testament to how deeply she was loved and respected. Alhamdulillah. I'd like to start by sharing a poem, and then myself and my cousin Yasmin are going to share some stories with you before Imam Ardini speaks. And come in, we open the microphone for anyone who would like to share a story. What's important for us as a family is that we celebrate Sito. She lived a full life filled with trials and tribulations, but it was indeed a full life. And to have lived to 93 years old, and subhanAllah, that's such a blessing. And alhamdulillah, she has beautiful children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren to carry on her legacy and the legacy that she and Jadot created. She Is Gone by David Harkins. And I truly believe that this poem is befitting for the occasion as we seek to celebrate her. You can shed tears that she is gone, or you can smile because she has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that she will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that she has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see her, or you can be full of the love that she shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember her and only that she is gone, or you can cherish her memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what she would want, smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. And we truly feel that that is what Sito would have wanted. She was a woman who truly lived. And alhamdulillah, that really is a blessing, because so often we take the difficulties in life so seriously that we don't know how to move forward and look on. And I can say that from even my own personal experiences. It's hard to get out of the hardships that you've gone through and look forward into the future. But I know that that's something that Sito Adeeby surely would have wanted of all of us, to celebrate her and to be reminded of all the beautiful memories that we have and look forward and move on. Before I call my cousin Yasmin to the stage, I'd like to ask each of you to recite Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha in her memory.
Today, for those who don't know me, my name is Yasmin and I'm Adeeby's granddaughter, Joe's daughter. My sister was one of the most amazing grandmothers there was, and we shared a special bond. She was also an amazing mother to her children. Over the last few years, I've got to witness everyone come together to take care of her and to spend time with her, and I think that's a reflection of the family she built. Today, I just wanted to share some memories I have of my Sito. So, the first memory I wanted to share is that on every vacation or trip that we took, the only thing that my Sito would ask us to bring back was a baksa or a seashell. Yeah, that's a common story she liked to tell people. So over the past 15 plus years, she held on to every single shell that I brought back from a trip and that others also brought back in a bowl in the family room. And even sometimes me or my dad would forget to bring a shell. We would pick up a random rock off the side of the road and tell her it was from Florida, and she was so grateful. So. Next thing about my Sito is that any time I was at her house, she had to braid my hair. She claimed if there's hair in your face, it will affect your eyesight when I'm older. So even if you just got your hair done, she always had to braid it for you. And I also love that every time I visit my Sito in the last couple of years, Aunt Lila always had her hair perfectly done. So. Next thing is that my Sito was the ultimate knitter. She would knit the most beautiful blankets, scarves, you name it, for everyone. Sometimes even mittens that don't fit. At one point she made so many blankets that the color combinations started, they just weren't looking too good. Browns with blacks with red. Very interesting combinations, but whatever yarn on hand is what she used. So we're still thankful for that. And even one time when I was younger, she tried to teach me to knit, and let's just say we didn't get along that day. The next thing is that if you know my Sito, she was really cared about women pursuing like education and higher education, since she wasn't able to do so herself. And so, especially in healthcare, she loves doctors, nurses, you name it. So when I went to medical school, she was really my #1 supporter, my motivation. There was just lines she would always repeat back, like in Arabic she would tell me, if you set your mind to it, you will do it. And every time I visit her, she tells me that, so it was my motivation. And then the last thing is that my Sito was always taking pictures or videos of every big or even small moment. So she was able to capture a lot of memories for us to have for years to come and hopefully show our kids one day. And as you know, she may have passed that gene on to some of her children. So overall, she raised an amazing family and created some great memories. So although she's not present with us anymore, she's still ingrained in each of us, and because we all have a little bit of Debbie in us. Thank you.
Was truly an extraordinary woman, mashallah. She was superbly radiant. It used to leave us almost feeling kind of surreal, Sito. One of the things you always knew her by were her outfits. So much so that she had these loud, colorful, very extravagantly floral or even different kinds of patterns, these dresses that she had made in Brazil and Lebanon, and she would have them sent to her, and they all had matching turbans. And we nicknamed her in our house the African Queen of Cucamonga. So when she would come inside the house, we actually had a calling for her, and we'd tell her we're gonna roll out the red carpet because the Queen has come. And really she knew how to command her presence was always made known, and she knew how to command everybody's attention and respect. When Sito Debbie walked into the room, you stood, jalasat halik, and you made sure, because she'd tell you something about your posture, she'd make a comment about your outfit, she'd tell you, why are you wearing that? You should be more properly dressed, or this isn't okay for whatever event we were having. And she was always the one who put that love and understanding of our culture into us. She really did instill that in all of us. And for those of you who are so used to all of our kissing and hugging, you can thank Sito Adeeby for it, because we became the kissing bandits from Wara Siti Adeeby, because every time we'd walk into a room, she'd make sure that we gave our salams to everybody there. And if we didn't, you faced her wrath afterwards. She was always the gracious hostess, always had a spread out, even if you were coming just to have coffee or to sit there for hours during a sahara. She was the consummate hostess. And she was also a negotiator, whether it meant haggling for prices at the store, and she would do this inside Jacobson's, Lord & Taylor, Crowley's. But honestly, the FBI had nothing on her when it came to her negotiations. She could probably have saved hostages many a time had they just contacted her. We always laughed, for those of us who are older, we know Sito, when she would go shopping, my grandmother could return something that she probably used for 25 years and get money back. And they would probably give her more money because they didn't want to face the wrath of Debbie. Because when she came in and she wanted to return something, look, I swear to God, she got it returned, and she would either get store credit or her money back for it, no matter how long it's been. And they all knew her by name. One time I had walked in to Lord & Taylor while she was there haggling with a woman at the jewelry counter trying to return something, and I thought I could scoot on by because I was so embarrassed, because I could hear her from the doors telling her, no, you're gonna take it back. And she said to me, she goes, oi! And I'm like, she was like, come back here, where do you think you're going? And I stood there while she haggled with this lady, and wallahi, got her store credit back. And she told me, she goes, if ever you need anything returned, you call me, I'll get it back for you. Alhamdulillah, truly, she was epic. And my cousin Firiel earlier said one thing about her. She said she was a legend, and indeed she was. She was always strong, always courageous and brave, and her life wasn't easy. And she faced many difficulties and hardships in her life, more than many people should have to. Though subhanAllah, she faced it with strong faith, the might of an army, and the will of a warrior, alhamdulillah. She was never one to back down, and God help you if you thought you could stand up to her. And when I was saying those things, I saw many of you in our family smiling, because I know each of you have come up to Debbie at some point and known that you were not going to win that fight. She had a way with people, dealing with people, diffusing situations, making people smile. And as Yasmin said, I was blessed, alhamdulillah, in my life to travel globally. And every time I'd ask her, what do you want? Whether it be from China or Indonesia or Malaysia, whatnot, And she always said, bring me back a bahsa. And I always wondered what she did with those stones. And I remember going into the family room one day and seeing them in a bowl. Because I asked her, I'm like, when I'm bringing you these, what do you do with them? Where do you put them? And she said, I keep them in a bowl where all of you, wherever you travel, wherever you set your foot, I want a stone or I want a shell, like Yasmin was saying. She just wanted something so that she lived vicariously through her children and her grandchildren. And it was a beautiful thing because I think we take for granted the luxuries that we have to travel the world when other people aren't able to do so. And in her older age, she knew the importance of ensuring that she had a memory of her children and grandchildren and the activities that they were able to do. There's a great deal that we can learn from her grace. She was a woman who woke up grateful, and having lived with her for the last 2 years, she always said Alhamdulillah. She always went to bed with the words of God on her mouth. And she always said that she was grateful, and I'm going to miss the most of being able to see her telling me, Inshallah ma b't'uzi hadan illa Allah. I hope you never have to use anyone but God, when we would be helping her do things or helping her throughout the house. There's a quote from one of my favorite books, it's Secrets of the Divine, A Spiritual Journey into the Heart of Islam, which states, death is not an entrance into nothingness. Rather, it is a birth canal you must travel through to be born into an eternal life. Similar to how we wake up from a dream by opening our eyes, when we die, we do not disappear. We simply open our eyes to another reality. And inshallah, she'll open hers to the reality of Jannah, inshallah. Having that blessing of always being thankful when she woke up and was restored to her life every morning. Those are the blessings that we carry with us. And as her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, inshallah, will carry the same. She truly was grateful to be living, and she lived. She lived a tremendous life, full of happy and sad moments, but she lived. And she always enjoyed keeping everybody close and having those gatherings. And I pray that each one of us learn from that we continue to maintain that closeness. I'm going to end with this last quote. And I ask that each of you continue to remain focused on your faith in whatever capacity you can, and whatever religion that you follow, because it's something to me that I truly found to be of tremendous joy in watching her every day, to see how strong her faith was. The quote states, "It suddenly became clear to me that the whole purpose of faith is not to be good enough before we begin on the path to God, but to come with all our deficiencies to God, knowing that only He can fill in our gaps through His mercy." So I thank you, and I'm going to open the mic to my cousin Camille to share a few words.
Yazi's speech inspired some good memories from Sito, so just had something short. But her favorite thing to say was, "I love you more than the money could buy," and I think she planted that in us pretty early, because every time we would see her, she'd give us a $5 bill. And I don't know what year it was that they changed the $5 bills to have the big pink 5 on it. Feels like they've been that way forever. But for about 10 to 15 years, she thought they were brand new. And she thought it was really exciting. So every time we saw her, she'd be like, "I got you a big pink 5. Like, she would go to the bank if she knew she was going to see us and ask them specifically for the big pink 5s. And now I can't look at a $5 bill without thinking of Sito. So I'm glad for that ritual. And just among many other things that will remind me of her always. So, thank you all for coming.
But you know, Yazi, I have to say, Yasmin made a comment earlier that I thought was really funny about the picture taking. I'm that same person. I love to take pictures and memorialize everything. But Sito would have her camcorder. Who bought her the camcorder?
Who did
Sito
it?
had a camcorder, and every time we got together, no matter where we were, the camcorder was glued to my grandmother's hand, literally glued to it. She'd walk around and she'd walk up to you and she'd go, "Suhaila, while you're holding your grape leaf. So Hayla, tell them your name and what you're eating. That was the line for every video. So I think if we, bring up all of those videos, that's what we're going to see. Tell them your name and what you're eating. And she always had the ability of getting you while you were mid-spoon or with your mouth full, and then having to ask you that question. But it's what made for so many, honestly, things that we can get together and laugh about and joke about. And even the simple fact that Sito saw something on you that she liked, she was taking it. Even if you said an odd number, you didn't. She's like, how about you give me that and I'm going to give you this. So there were so many, there are so many stories we can tell. But alhamdulillah, watching her in these last 2 years on a daily basis, her love for God and her love for her family, the way her eyes would light up when her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren walked into the room really was a blessing. Being able to see that, being able to witness that on a daily basis, the fact that even with her short-term memory going, when her kids walked in, she knew them. You could leave the room and come back in and she would greet you again. It was a beautiful thing. Joe would walk through the door like, Ija Yusuf, like Yusuf al-Bab, iftah la Yusuf. And it's a blessing too, having Uncle Joe 2 houses away, that, just being able to pop in at all times, but she truly loved her kids. And her eyes lit up every time that they walked in the door, and we would have a good time, and she would harass my mom when one of her other children would walk in. She'd divert her attention to the other child that walked in the room and tease mom, to the point that even in her last hours, they were telling, Uncle Joe and Khalto Amira were telling a story that even in her last hours while they were talking to Uncle Joe and Aunt Amira were sitting, and Sito was trying to close her eyes and rest at the hospital, and they were talking to each other over Sito. And she opened her eyes and she looked at them and she said, Hashtehkum. And they wouldn't even, they couldn't even let her rest rest peacefully, that she had to open her eyes, but that was Sito. That was who she was. And she had a way of just making you laugh even in the most solemn of times. So alhamdulillah that she was given the blessings that she did of having her children and her grandchildren, great-grandchildren surrounding her. But again, on behalf of our family, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We want each of you to take away the memories that you carry of her, the time that you spent with her, and hold those deep in your heart, because they're what keep us going and what allow us to continue to live somebody's legacy.
Really special for me with my Sito was introducing her to my wife, my new wife, recently, last year. And introducing your wife to your grandma, and you heard a little bit about, you guys all know Debbie's personality, very strong personality. Introducing a new woman to the family was a little intimidating, maybe just in my head, but a little intimidated, bringing her in and introducing her. And I remember the build-up, coming and knowing that we were going to visit. What is she going to think? What is she going to say? And you walk in and you see her. She says hi, and then she realizes there's someone else with you, right? And so we introduced her. We actually have it on video. I was watching it earlier. We introduced her, and she didn't at first realize, and then we told her, this is my wife, this is Sana. And she looked at her, and you're waiting, what is she going to say, right? The first thing she said was kind of an aside, you have beautiful hair. That was the first comment. But then instead of I was worried, is she going to ask her, interrogate, what is she going to do? She turned to me and she said, make sure you're good to her. And I don't know why that, I guess that just stuck with me, because I always, wanted to impress my Sito, to bring somebody into the family that she would be excited about. And to hear her then turn to me and say, make sure you take care of her was really special. The other story, the other thing I wanted to share, very similar, if you heard what Camille shared earlier, was Sito's favorite thing to tell you as you walked out the door. She always reminded you, I love you more than the money can buy. And it became, something that you just said, but I think the context and the root of it was really important, because at that time, for me at least, I was moving away from Michigan. And she always asked me, why? Why are you leaving? There's so much here, there's so many jobs, there's all these things, and you rationalize, right? You explain, no, this industry, this is happening, and this is why I have to go. And she would just look at me and say, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. We're here. I love you more than the money can buy. Don't worry about the money. And so, I still live in California, so it didn't change necessarily everything, but it did create, something for me to anchor around in terms of what's important. And I think, a couple days ago, I had what I thought was the most important meeting of the year planned today at work. And, when we got the news about Sito, I thought about those words. And I canceled. I didn't, ask. I didn't think about all these things. It's not that I'm not bragging about that. All of us sacrificed to be here, but remembering those words, I think were really important to me, and something I'll carry with me, and I think we can all carry with us. There are a lot of distractions in this world, and the love that we have for each other and the bonds that we share as family trump all of those things. So, thank you.
Thank you.
One of the children. And I just wanted to give a different perspective. We've heard from the grandchildren, and we've heard from the Imam regarding life and death. But I want to focus a little bit more on the life of my mom. So, how many of you in the room actually met her? I would just be curious if you could raise your hand, because I recognize a number of you, but I don't know everybody. So we have a number of people who have met her over the years. My mother was only 5'2" or 3.
Not even. Yeah, not
On her
even.
best day, she was 5'2".
Look at Ikram.
Ikram, will you stand up, please? Okay. My mom was just a little shorter than that. But when she walked in a room, she was a giant, and everybody knew it. Her shadow was big. So there are things about our mother that I didn't learn until I was a man. The hardship that she endured, starting from a small village in Lebanon, Rafid. I don't know how many people we have in Ahal Rafid here, but it's a small village, and usually when people say, you're from Lebanon, I say, yeah, my parents came from Rafid. They say, where? It's a small village. Then I have to mention Rashaya, because that's where the government offices were, and more people knew where that village was. It's a bigger village today, Rafid, but back then I think it probably numbered in the hundreds of people. So this woman who had not more than a first grade education, maybe, really became a scholar of life. So when you hear the grandchildren talking about her wisdom, talking about her wit, her ability to command a room, these are the things she learned in life. She didn't learn them in a classroom. And she was always proud to say, Bayi kan mukhtar. Bayi kan mukhtar. So my grandfather, my namesake, Abdurrahman, was the mayor of the village of Rafid. His children are here today, my uncles and my aunts are with us today. But she was very proud of that, because her life began in that small village, in the shadow of the mayor of Rafid, where people came to pay respect, where she learned how to be a hostess at a very young age. And she learned how to cook at a very young age for groups of people who would come in to visit the mayor of the village. That level of graciousness and political savvy, the ability to negotiate. You heard some of the grandchildren talking about her negotiation skills. Her wit. I don't think I know anybody. I have never seen anybody take my mother on in the Arabic language. If they looked sideways or insulted her in any way, she cut them in 1,000 pieces. And I've never seen anybody take her down. Nobody messed with my mom, not just because she was a ball of energy, but because what she learned in that small village, when the elders from other villages came in to sit and speak with her dad, she never forgot. She knew how to talk. She knew how to lead. She knew how to become a great hostess and negotiate, and all of the things you heard. It all started in that village. But the journey of life for her, this university, this scholarship that she earned, the challenges she faced, I never heard about them until I was in my 30s and 40s. So you have to ask yourself, when I learned of the hardship in that village, when I learned that she had lost 2 sisters at a very young age, that I never knew she had, and other things that she encountered in her life, which I won't go into, but I can tell you that as those things came to light in my life as a man, I started to understand the character of my mother and how it was forged like steel, hot steel, on an anvil with a hammer hitting it and forging it. And that is what was inside my mother, is strength, stronger than any man I have ever met, stronger than any woman I have ever met. And that was my mother. So let me share some of the joy of growing up under the wing of that woman, not knowing everything that shaped her, and how she delivered day in and day out to 8 children in a small home. And I'm sharing this because my father came to this country in 1948. His father came here in 1914, 1913. 1902 for the first visit. Went back to Lebanon because he didn't like this country. And he only came back in the late 40s after World War II because my father and his brother convinced him to come back. But my grandfather said I didn't like the country when I was there. He was happy in Lebanon. But they came back. So I referenced the 40s because this family in front of you, we're considered old Dearborn. When we grew up in East Dearborn, and I'm sharing this for the people who don't know this. I was talking to my brother Joe, there were 3 Arab families, from Greenfield to Schaefer, from Warren, maybe to Michigan Avenue, when we grew up. There was a Saad family, Mansour family, and Bumrad. 3. So what was Dearborn like in the 1960s? What was it like in the 1970s? I can tell you. There were no bakeries, there were no restaurants, there were no Arabic schools, there were no other Arabic families. So when we wanted khubz Adeeby, where do you think we got it from? In the basement of our house, where my mom labored making the ajin to put on the sudge that she had in her basement, that she put this cast iron sudge on top of a little gas stove. Khubz mar'ut, the thin one. And I can still see her because we would sit around her as kids when she was flipping the dough and stretching it. This was a woman who had 8 children, mixing dough to feed a family of 10. The bread has to last 2 or 3 days. And that's how we got our bread, fresh bread. I never thought about what a big deal that was, but today you go to Kroger and you'll find Yasmin Bakery bread everywhere you go. But back then there were no bakeries. Everything she made by hand, betlawi. You can go to any of the sweet shops now and get your betlawi. For us as kids, our memories are sitting in the kitchen with mom melting butter, bringing the phyllo dough out on the table, and spending a couple hours together making betlawi, or fataya, or khubz, mar'ouf. How about the tabbouleh? Who still makes their tabbouleh here? Huh? We have somebody here making tabbouleh. Do you know what it takes to make tabbouleh for 30 people? Without a food processor? How about hummus? What's that? Huh?
It takes 8 kids.
It takes 8 kids. It takes 8 kids. Everybody gets a knife, everybody starts chopping parsley, okay? Hummus, we had to get the beans and soak them all night before we could squish them by hand, not with a food processor. That was life of the Arab in Dearborn in the 1960s. She did this while she was raising 8 kids. She had kids in diapers and young teenagers. But you never heard my mother complain. If there were 50 people coming to eat at our house, which happened regularly, in a kitchen that was 8 foot by 10 foot with one stove, she would cook for 50 people. And it was a feast. And she did it regularly. You know, I didn't know how good of a cook my mother was until I ate at other people's houses. I'm not kidding you. We used to visit those few families that were in Dearborn and in Windsor, because that's all we had. We would visit each other, and when they would pull the food out and put it on the table, I'd fill my plate, and when I would start to eat, I couldn't eat it. I would eat a few bites and stop. Then I would ask my mom later, how come it looks like what Adish, but it doesn't taste like what Adish? How come it looks like this, but it doesn't taste like that? It's because of how good of a cook my mother was. I didn't know it. I still, to this day, our family knows, my wife knows, who came into the family, I've never tasted better wara arish, malfouf, hummus, than my mother made, ever. We can't find it. Go to the best restaurant, I can't find it. My mother was an amazing lady. She really was. 5'2", Aliyah Hama. She was 5'2", but she was a giant when she walked in the room. And I have nothing prepared, I'm just speaking from the heart to you right now. I want you to know that we, as the Alcodray family, greatly appreciate everybody who's come. We've been blessed. We've been blessed. And I like to think that my mom was part of that group, right? And part of this community, my brother talked about the strength of the community. He talked about Dearborn. I think he's speaking specifically about East Dearborn in terms of Arab families. I know we were blessed with big community and big families in the south end of Dearborn, where my parents started before we were all born. But the strength of a community, the strength of a family starts in the home, and the home is often made by the mother. So look around, everything you've heard, everything you see, the people that you know that were touched by my mom are a result of that strength and that home that she built. So we were blessed in terms of family. We thank God we turned out well, and now we're here amongst you, and you're here sharing this time with us. What I'd like to do is, first of all, thank you for being here. And on behalf of my family, from both sides of the Detroit River, and from California too, is to thank you for being here. But I really would, we have some time left on the agenda. I'd really like to ask if any of you would like to come up, 2-3 minutes, spend some time on the microphone, share a story about, it doesn't have to be about anything, just we're celebrating life today And my niece Widad is going to take me up on that offer. Thank you again. Assalamu alaikum.
I'm sure like my mom and my sister, I normally don't like to speak in public, but one event that changed my life, I would like to share with you. First of all, my sister has a PhD in life. She doesn't have a degree, but she has a PhD in life. All the events that went through shaped her, and that's how she raised her kid. And she taught about her grandkids. It was one summer when Sito and Jiddo, Allah yarhamhum, came and visited us in Beirut. And I can't tell you how much we used to wait for these visits. It was amazing to have them over. She kept telling me, yes, Siti, I have a friend. I think she lives close by. And I'm like, Sito, مين? She said, اسمها إسعاف القادري ومجوز إسماعيل معتوب. I told her when, where does she live? She gave me the address. And I said, Sito, I can take you walking. She's like, seriously? I said, yes, let's go. Mind you, Is'af is like her second sister. She grew up with her in the village. So I took her. We went, she met her. She was so happy because she hasn't seen her other sister for over 23 years. But that event, that visit did not change her life only. It changed my life. Because that's where I met my husband. She picked a good man for me, that's all I can say. I wish he was here to hear that. He stood by me in sickness and in health, and if most of you know, he really did. He truly is a good man. So this visit changed my whole life, and I can never forget that visit, and I have a lot of memories. Khalu, you were there too. I know, I'm looking at you. He's the first one that said, Widad, this guy has an eye on you. So, thank you, Sito Habibti. I know you can hear me. Thank you for picking a good man that stayed like faith.
This one is Samira's daughter Zainab, and this one is Shadia's daughter Olivia, great-grandchildren of Sito. And they had, what's really interesting is my mom lived with the queen sitting right over there, my sister Lila, who carried a large share of the work effort it takes to help somebody that is aging, that needs help. And her grandchildren, these two of them, would often spend Saturday nights over at Tata's house. So my mom had the benefit of their company, which brought her to life, but these two also had the benefit of my mother and her blessings, and they learned some amazing lessons in love and empathy. And move over this way so they can see your beautiful smile. Tell them who you are.
I'm Zainab, and Sito was a really good grandma. She was nice and she was kind. And when I always used to say, I love you more than money could buy, she always used to reply, money buys nothing. And so she was like the best grandma I ever had.
Sorry, Lila.
You gotta step up your game, Lila.
How do you top that, right? We could probably stand up here all night telling stories. The story of one of the few Arab kids at William Ford School as a 5 or 6 year old, when your mom was in the front row, with the camera. This was before the video machines, but she had a camera with the big headlights on it. Everybody knew who my mom was. Fiercely loyal to her children and to her family. Rose Khali Tarek, Rose Alex, she's going to say a few words.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm Rose. I am Tarek Al-Qadray's wife. But I know him Yusuf from my first memory because my mom was one of the older and my father was one of the older Dearborn families. So I don't have a memory that does not include him Yusuf. So I'm up here to tell you that I was honored by her because as she got older, Tarek would visit her on his way to work, worked afternoons, he'd go by himself. Sometimes I try to go with him. My mom would always call, and as she got older, her memory was failing. And she'd be like, I'm not really sure you are, you're Marwan, or you're Tarek, or you're Muhammad, or this and that. But she always, always, always knew who I was. And she'd always, always say, Salimi ala Rose, no matter what happened. So he'd come home and be, yep, she remembered you, didn't remember me. He'd go over there and visit, yep, she remembered you again, didn't remember me. So we'd go visit her, oh, she'd remember me, and she'd smile and she'd hug, and she just made me feel special. She honored me by remembering and knowing who I was. So I'm gonna come
up. So I am Adeeby's daughter-in-law. She was Martami, and I had the privilege of meeting her 40 years ago. And when I started dating her son, which was not well received. And as strong as she was, how everybody speaks about her strength and the powerhouse she was, I, of all of you in this room, can attest to that fact, that she was in fact a very strong being to reckon with. But through it all, through our ups and downs, through striving for 40 years to seek approval, I know in my heart that she really did approve of me, eventually, and that she loved me. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I don't want to talk about how she felt about me or how I felt about her exactly. That's not what I want. What I want to say is what I learned through the last 5 years, approximately, where she was, falling ill and her body was deteriorating and she was losing her capacity to speak English. And like everybody said, she didn't seem to forget people's names. She remembered her children, she remembered her grandchildren. And there was a time after Ami died and they needed somebody in the mornings to take care of her while the rest of the kids were doing their lives, and I had quit my job, so I took the morning shift. And I had that wonderful blessing to spend, even though she could barely speak English, I did all the talking, and I was looking at videos that I took of her. The night that she died, when Ray went to the hospital, I sat up and I watched the videos. And there wasn't a video, I think, that she wasn't talking about her kids. I know I'm saying she doesn't speak English, but there was enough between her English and my understanding that I knew what she was saying. And it was always, always her children and her grandchildren. And the two things that strike me that was the blessing for me was to see that love for a woman that brought the children together in a way I hadn't seen in 35 years before that. Not in that exact way. I saw the sisters that were so loving and so attentive to her, so caring. And the sons, my God, like the sensitivity and I didn't have that in my family. I never saw that, not to the degree this family did. So they were that way because of who she was, is what I believe. And I was so impressed with that, and so impressed with just it's like she just became a soft, kind, wonderful mother and grandmother. And I had the blessing to spend day after day watching that flourish and enjoying that. And that was really, really important to me because of, you know, our history. Through it all, there was a lot of admiration I had for her. But I guess the most important thing I want to say is just to the family that I am so impressed with you guys, and that each one of you, girls and you three guys, should remember that what you did was not in vain, that you will take that blessing with you forever, and how important that was. And she knew it. She knew each and every one of you was there, and she needed you, and she loved you. And it was just, like I said, a blessing to be a part of that, to witness it. So, good job, family. Thank you.
Olivia, you wanted to say something, sweetheart? Anxiety?
Every sleepover we did, we always used to wake her up in the morning. She always had a smile on her face, and she enjoyed when we woke her up. And one time, I was sitting with her, and we were having cereal, and then she just took it away from me. She ate it, and then she had the cereal, and I didn't have any because she ate it. I don't want to eat it anymore.
The famous swipe. Yes. So everybody, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Abdul, and everybody who's known me since I was a kid, I'm a Hudi, and later life as Cater. So I just wanted to say a couple things. One, just take a moment to reflect on your own mothers as we are reflecting on mine, whether they're with us or not with us, the importance of the role they played in your lives. And we all have now, through my brothers and Lisa and other people saying how important, and so many stories that I heard that you don't really realize the smallest thing can make such a big difference in somebody else's life. So it's important just to reflect on your own parents and those in your lives that you love, and whatever disagreements you have, hopefully those will get sorted out. But I would like to just say a couple of small quirks that my mom would always tell me when I was a kid. She'd say, and I don't remember in Arabic anymore, but it had something to do with putting your hand on the dirt and it will turn into money. And I don't know if you guys know what I'm saying. I'll go with that. So I did that for years as a kid. And I would throw, and I'm like, there's no money here. So I basically would have to go in and wash my hands because my hands were nothing but dirty and muddy. As I got older, I understood what she meant. And it was the little things like that she was just trying to tell you, don't worry about it. Wherever you go, your path is written for you, and money will come, the love will come. Just do the right thing all the time. And I will say this though, if we're talking about memories, my mother could be on a tangent somewhere else and just going on and looping about something. And whether it was me or my brothers or somebody would just be Lila, for example. Lila's a living example of that. So when she would do that, we would just look at her and say, Obama. And she would stop in her tracks and she'd say, Takharabu, where is he? And and for years, I would hold his coffee mug and say, who's coming to have coffee with you? And she would yell Obama, and she would get this big smile on her face. So those are one of my memories. I got 50 videos for it, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm more grateful for everybody being here and sharing this time with us, and expressing your love and respect for not only my mom, but obviously our brothers and sisters and my aunts and uncles. That says a lot to us, and we're very grateful. And in the end, I would like to say, if we could all do the Fatah for the people we love that are here and not here, our mothers and fathers, whoever it is, you know who they are. Please say a prayer for them. And afterwards, we would wish you well and on your journeys home.
gonna wear this hat out in the sun. I just showed her what it looks like. You like it? Do you like your hat? I don't think. You don't think so?
Yeah, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
We love you.
And we love you.
Uli, Merry Christmas. Wait. Say Merry Christmas.
It's 6 months.
6 months. No, say Merry Christmas. Ulinhon Merry Christmas. No, really, ulinhon Merry Christmas. احكي للناس Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Same to you. شو هي عم تعمل؟ شو هي عملت؟ What happened? What happened?
ايش حرام عليكي؟ هيك شو عملتي؟ سبتيني اياها. You're just funny.
Alhamdulillah.
Bossy teta. Voice. Yeah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالكي يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. See how beautiful you do it? See? شو كان عم يعملوا هلا؟
عم بكسبها.
عم بكسها. He was kissing the woman on TV. Come on, Besta. Happy birthday, dear Sito. Happy birthday to you. Now you have to blow out the candles, Mama. Sito, blow out the candles. Besta. Yalla. Blow out the candles, honey. Good job. She's asking you who's that?
My mom.
My mom. Yeah. هاي إمها. شو اسمها؟ شو اسمها؟ شو اسمها؟
إمها مش إمها هاي.
Yeah, هاي إمها. على القرآن. What's her name, Mama? What's her name? شو اسمها؟ شو اسم إمها؟ شو اسمها؟ مين هيدا؟
I know it.
Yeah, هاي إمها. I know. هات ماما. شو اسم إمها؟
من ها إمها قداي.
شو اسمها؟
شو اسم؟
بنتي شو اسمها؟
شو اسمها بنتي؟
شهرورة.